Hi Leah, so here we go with our first audio feedback, so you have to let me know how it feels if you like it. Okay, you're looking at narrative with ninth grade. I think your prior content knowledge is realistic, that they know what characters and plot are. New content knowledge, planning, writing, and how to create a plot. Seems like something they might know already, so I'll be curious to see what your new angle is on that. Whoops, sorry, scrolled too far. Okay, so I like the fact that you went through the standards into the evidence outcomes. So we're looking to write narratives, the beginning of them where they engage and orient the reader, and use a variety of techniques to sequence the events. So specifically looking for strategies for engagement orientation, strategies for techniques. Excellent. I like your essential global questions. I think those are excellent questions to start with. How do different characters affect a conflict? Different personalities and characteristics can make a situation easier or worse. And I think that those are great questions to really get the kids engaged from the world that they live in and walk them into this kind of a lesson plan. So I hope that you actually have these in the narrative of your lesson plan. All right. So your students will be able to plan a narrative, appropriate types of character, plot mountain, and create a conflict. Good. Those are well aligned. And they'll understand how to plan different types of characters. Yeah, those are well aligned. I think those are succinctly put. That's good. Sometimes, to make the objective a little bit more measurable so that at the end of the lesson it's really clear to you whether a student did or did not meet the goals, is adding that by clause, right? So, in other words, right here you would write to plan a narrative by, filling out the plot mountain, or to create a conflict by, doing something really measurable and succinct, and that just helps you and the student know exactly what those expectations are. Whoops, sorry. So formative assessment, discussion, feedback, brainstorm list, excellent. That was formative assessment, sorry. And your summative assessment is the Freytag pyramid outline also. Okay, so I'll be looking to see how you're going to use that both formatively and summatively. All right, excellent. So in the learning activities, you'll have the Freytag's pyramid on the board, a note sheet ready to fill out on the Elmo. As I look at, and thank you so much, by the way, for actually scripting this out so I can see what you want to say. Good morning, students. Today we'll begin to write our own narratives. The first thing we have to do for writing a narrative is plan. Think about Lemav's notion of double planning, right? You're a ninth grader, it's 7:30 in the morning on Monday, you walk in, bell rings, sit down, and the first thing your teacher says is, good morning, we're going to write our narratives. And with writing a narrative, you have to plan. Planning is important to remember the pieces of a narrative that we talked about. Well, it's not going to have that real engagement piece to it. Talking about the value of narratives, the value of good, well thought out narratives, the value of detail and imagery used in narratives, allowing them to experience before you label, so experiencing a good narrative before you just come right out and plunk it in their laps that they're going to write it and they have to plan for it. How many kids by ninth grade, how many stories have they written? And in their mind, they're experts at it. They don't need to plan for it. They could sit down and write you a story in 30 minutes flat. You and I both know it wouldn't be great, but you got to sell them on that, right? So think about that engagement piece a little bit more there, okay? So, parts that make up a narrative, good, plot, character, and conflict. Would think you'd also want setting in there. Okay, and so pieces that create the plot, excellent. Exposition, rising, really nice definitions, excellent, good. Would you want the students writing these down, or are you just doing all the note-taking on the board? Kind of think those things through. Good definitions for flat and round characters. And for conflict, excellent, good, nicely done. I like the anticipation here, that in case students don't remember those, that they could have notes on that information from previously. Really good. Okay. So here you've got a hook where you read the pout pout fish. I don't know what that is. Well, isn't this interesting? Here is this beautiful hook. Flip-flop your lesson plan. Start class out with that. Tell the kids a story. Ask them to think about it. Why do we listen to the story? And it's more than just relating something that happened. Like you said, teaching a lesson, bring about change. Put this first. I think that's so much more going to help you with the engagement piece, so much more than dropping the whole we're writing a paper, in their lap at first thing in the morning. So good. Purpose of narrative is to bring about change or inform about a conflict. Excellent. Okay. Now, your direct instruction, in order to write a narrative, the author has to plan it out first, think about the characters and their types. Excellent, good. You may want to do a little bit of convincing there. Why do you want to think about characters and types first? Again, if you came back to that whole notion of, a character who tends to be argumentative is going to prolong a situation, whereas a character who's very passive is going to avoid a situation, things like that. A few little examples can help the kids grasp these really abstract ideas as regards to story writing and get them some more concrete notions with them. Okay, so good. Freytag's pyramid up on the Elmo. Students filling in the blank as we go along. Okay, outline the narrative and coming up with a conflict. Good. All right. This is interesting. Why do you think conflict helps develop the author's purpose? Because the author could be trying to get the readers to fix the same problem that arises in the story. Excellent. Give an example here to drive this point home. It could be something simple from a children's book, something from canonical literature. There's a ton of them, right? I mean, anything George Orwell ever wrote would fit in there nicely. Anything Dr. Seuss ever wrote. Okay. The exposition, right, including the characters and the setting. One of the goals was that you want the kids to write engaging openings and expositions for their audiences. And here you talk about making sure that your setting is appropriate for your story and that you plan the types of characters your story contains, plus who will be your narrator. This is one of those things, you directly tell them to do this, but telling them to do this and then providing them with examples and models would really drive this point home. Kids don't really get this word appropriate, right? They just want to be funny. I mean, it's why all my 8th grade boys always took everything to alien invasions. It's like, no, wildly not appropriate. Yeah, but they thought it was hilarious and therefore appropriate, right? Again, like planning the types of characters your story contains. Think about that little diagram I drew on the board that one day. Even something as little as that might help to really give some concreteness and some effectiveness to some of this writing. Let me scroll some more. Okay. Really nice succinct definitions to these. Good. Just add some examples in. All right. Before we begin, we need to think of our narratives and think of a story we want to tell. You can either tell a true story, you can make up a story. Now, isn't that interesting? Because earlier, up above in your lesson plan, you said that authors write for the purpose of helping people solve problems, but here you say we need to think of a story we want to tell. So there's a little bit of an internal inconsistency here. Which one is it? Do they need to think of a purpose that they want to drive home and a story that helps them do that? Or do they want to think of a story that they want to tell and then may or may not have a purpose to it, right? So watch those internal inconsistency pieces. When you're teaching 9th graders, their brains tend to wander anyways. So, educator consistency is really essential, okay? good. So specific outlines for them, interacting with them as they're working and helping individual students come up with conflicts to talk about. Fantastic. Excellent. I'm going to scroll down really quick and look for some attachments. Oh, beautiful. Oh, beautiful. Nicely done. Yes. Steps for planning a narrative, guided notes for that. Oh, beautiful. Leah, I'm really glad to see those. Excellent. Great. Okay, so excellent. So then you move the students into choosing setting, labeling, sharing their narrator. Really good. Again, I think just probably having a few examples that you can bring the kids back to in class so that they can point to a well-written example, a well-written structure that they can mimic if they need to, probably just helps them to grab some concreteness out of such this abstract idea of writing. And that's really something we're going to be talking about throughout this whole semester too. Really nice lesson plan. Very detailed though. I appreciated the notions that you had in there for differentiation and some of the direct communication, what I would say type pieces. Really well done. Really well done. Thanks.